Welcome.
Welcome and bienvenue. Welcome. There we go.
Bonvenon. That's Esperanto.
My gosh, well, there we go.
I know, I'm feeling very European this evening, you see.
We're live. And we've got Nathan with us. Delightful.
Yay, all those things. Nathan, how are you? You were invisible a moment ago. That's quite a good party trick. You should rock that one out more often.
We gave him 16 seconds of music to get on screen, and by God, he managed it. Like a whippet.
Yeah, well, I'm here. I'm alive. I've got my non-alcoholic beer. I'm ready to rock.
Chicken.
I'm yet to be convinced about that.
Well,
it's all right, Nathan. I'm with you. I can't drink at the moment either. So, and Kat doesn't drink. So
no, I'm just like this.
I have got.
There's no reason for cats.
Mine's water though tonight.
Yeah, I've got water in a Hogarden pint glass. Other beers are available, and you can probably rob this from a pub near you. So I don't approve of that. Listen.
All of my pint glasses are robbed.
Let's be honest. Every British person has got at least 6 pint glasses from their local booze that they've picked.
Absolute cupboard full.
Absolutely, yeah. And if any boozer is foolish enough to hand out one of the nice mugs, like with a handle, particularly close to last orders, they are never seeing that shit again.
No, they tend to be a locals one now, don't they?
Yeah. My dad came back with a whole box worth of well, I can't remember what brand it was, from Belgium. The whole box worth. And I said to him, I'm going to regret asking this question, but how did you get out with all of those? He said, I was very pissed and I don't remember. Oh, I shouldn't have said that because we haven't done the disclaimer yet. I said bad words.
Nathan, what were you trying to say?
Have you ever had any Beavertown beers? They normally have pint glass and they have like a coloured skull glass design. That brewery, as part of their guerrilla marketing, which is good because we're going to talk a lot about gorillas today. A guerrilla marketing, they purposefully wanted people to steal their pint glasses, and they were like one of the only breweries where they would actively go around the pubs trying to give more and more glasses, whereas most breweries it's like getting, blood from a stone trying to get new glasses. But that's because they knew everyone was taking them home and at dinner parties and, people coming around, ooh, what's that glass? Which is quite clever. I've got about 10 in my cupboard.
I've got some, yeah.
Nobody ever has to buy any glasses again. Ladies, I don't know if you're getting this. I can hear Nathan, but the picture's frozen.
It is.
My picture's frozen, yeah.
But we can hear you. And it's a good... it was a good phrase. It's still back and frozen.
I don't know if I've made it worse by saying that out loud.
I'll tell you what, while he tinks on his end, as both Catherine and I have sworn, and we've all 4 of us have promoted larceny, maybe I will hop in and do the disclaimer before we talk about Owain Glyndwr. And Nathan's going to teach us all about him. So, hello, friend. Welcome to History After Dark. We're live. It's very exciting. We called it History After Dark for a variety of reasons. Principal among them is that we wanted to create a space where we could let our collective freak flags fly, where we could indulge in our love of the 4-letter expletive, innuendo, innuendo, general filth, smut, and depravity. So if you are in an open plan office with a judgmental boss, put a headphone in. If you are in a car, a lift, a crawl space with a child, this child is a problem. We call this child Timmy, who's got the mugs. Get your mugs out, lasses. Timmy is a problem. Timmy's a sort of child that hears one depraved thing one time, locks it away in his mind palace, takes it to school with him, repeats it in front of his lovely teacher, who in my mind looks like Miss Honey. Now, obviously, Miss Honey is as pure as the driven. She doesn't watch History After Dark because she's not a depraved pervert like all of us. And I'm including the audience in that too. You know why you're here. We love you for it. So she does not know the first cardinal rule of History After Dark, which is if you don't know what it is, don't Google it. It's not for you. So she Googles it. And now she's in the corner in the fetal position, rocking back and forward. She's non-verbal, not great for a primary school teacher. You now have to go up to school, explain why Timmy knows this thing. And then on top of that, you're now on the hook for the weeks of therapy it's going to take to get her upright and verbal. Again, no one needs that. I think it's very clear from all that I have said what this is going to be. And it's highly likely that it's going to happen again. It's been a while since we've had to yeet footage directly into the sun, which means, as we're live now again, one of three things. Either we have improved, that's highly unlikely. Number two, we're due another snafu, more likely. Third and final, perhaps the most likely, is that we've now spent so much time together collectively and with our friends who we have as guests, that for us, the bar is in hell. That is the most likely thing that's happened. If at any point anybody should come into the comments here or on our respective social media channels and say something along the lines of, I very much enjoy History After Dark, but must you swear it's most unladylike? First of all, I didn't volunteer to be a lady for you. That's not who I am. I am part scaffolder, part navvy, and I'm proud of it. All right? And we're not going to do what you want us to do, which is put that comment pinned so that other people can come in and can humiliate you. Look, I'm not going to kink shame you. They might. But what I am going to shame you for is kink without consent. Look, if you want to have your testicles wired for sound, then I know a wonderful woman in a Brighton basement. Her name is Tallulah. Her first rule is not fun. Her first rule is say uncle. And if you want to see her in her white clean outfit, then you pays your money and he takes your choice. But we're all adults here. Lucas, for the love of God, go to bed. This is never going to be a drinking game. But if you're a grown-up and you want to drink, that's up to you. This is not medical, nor is it legal advice. Don't sue. Hi, Nathan. You're going to teach stuff. Apparently, there's going to be some animals involved, which I was not aware of. I'm excited.
Welcome.
Hello. How are you all doing?
Hey.
Yeah, good.
Nice.
Okay, so shall we begin?
Because you're making noise.
Now that you've gone through once again your incredible disclaimer, as I say every time I join this chat, you are like a Shakespearean actor presenting your final soliloquy in a epic, and you never miss a beat. You know, it's perfect.
Thank you.
It's perfect.
And it kind of gets me ready. It's almost like I've been in many rugby change rooms in my time while the captain geeing up the team, really trying to get everyone fired up to go on the pitch and smash lumps into each other. And that's exactly the same feelings you arouse when you give that disclaimer. So
Do you know what? That I will take that and lock it in my pocket because that's high praise indeed. Thank you very much.
I'm thinking Kat's got a second career coming. just getting in those rugby changing rooms, just writing them up,
just smacking arses and generally geeing people up with talk of testicles and car batteries. Hey, whatever tickles your pickle.
Well, time to update your CV.
Well, I mean, fittingly for tonight, it's almost kind of. I imagine that's what Owain Glyndwr would have been like, geeing up the Welsh people with one of these speeches. So it's perfect for tonight. And why am I frozen again? I don't know.
I don't know.
We can hear you though. We can hear you.
Don't worry.
Good. So I can just I can do anything my side, and no one knows.
Careful, because it'll.
Well, yeah.
Suddenly the camera starts moving and Nathan is stripped to the waist with some Diamante nipple tassels on, and then he's just clapping with them.
I mean, I was probably thinking of just drinking beer, but
oh right. Look, you have your hobbies and I have mine. Okay, Nathan.
Oh God, wow. This is yes.
Let's put this clown car back on the rails. Nathan, tell us about Owain.
Well, where to begin, I guess. This is probably going to be quite an interesting, well, I think it's interesting anyway, an interesting deep dive into Welsh history, which, as you know, you've had me on before, I feel gets short shrift and often gets overlooked in favour definitely of English history, which dominates any discussion when it comes to British history. But even the Scots, many people know Scottish history, even if it's a bastardized version through films like Braveheart or Mary Queen of Scots or, I don't know, Rob Roy or whatever the weird films they made in the 80s. But Welsh history doesn't really get its fair share of spotlight, I think. So I'm hoping you're all going to enjoy what I'm about to deliver, or try to deliver anyway, with my frozen face, beaming into living rooms all around the world. Okay, so Owain Glyndwr. So I think first and foremost we need to place Owain into his context. It's not good enough just to mention Owain Glyndwr. We need to understand the world that he operated in a little bit, so that we can understand why he meant so much to the Welsh then and now. So we need to explore Wales, first of all, briefly as a country. It's easy to mistake the Wales we know today always was Wales back then. And that's not really the case in the early medieval period. Obviously we had the Romans on these islands, and they left in the early 5th century. Then we had a series of British Romano kingdoms arise across what we would now call England and Wales. We get the Saxons, we get the Danes, we get the Normans, all coming in and gradually creating a single polity that we know as England. England became England as early as 927. In Wales, we still had a series of individual kingdoms. It wasn't Wales. It was, for example, the Kingdom of Gwent, the Kingdom of Deheubarth, the Kingdom of Gwynedd, the Kingdom of Powys. Loads of kingdoms who loved to, smash into each other. The Welsh were fighting the Welsh as much as they were fighting the Saxon,
Did they have
the
cat
Danes,
in their Did they have cat in their changing room? Is that why?
well, some of them probably did, yeah. Because they also tended to, great tribal chiefs kept on defecting between the sides. So I'm sure she probably went, like a winner stays all scenario, moving around, sharing her talents. Always on the winning side is our cat.
Like a Stanley, that's me. Always
like
on
a Stanley, yeah.
Always on the winning side.
So we have a series of Welsh kingdoms. Now, the most powerful was Gwynedd, which is northwest Wales. Anyone who's been on holiday to Snowdonia, to Carnarvon, that is Gwynedd. Now, throughout the medieval period, the Normans were trying to conquer the Welsh people, because this is key here. We did not have Wales, but we definitely did have what we would recognise as the Welsh. The people living in these kingdoms, Gwynedd, Deheubarth, Gwent, Glamorgan, they all shared a linguistic, a cultural background. They recognised each other as Cymro, a fellow Welshman. I think Cymro is the same root word as comrade. So they recognised they were the Welsh, but they were not part of a single country called Wales. And throughout the early medieval period, the Normans, the Plantagenets, they were gradually conquering the Welsh people piecemeal. And we get to 1282, and that is the year that the final Welsh independent kingdom of Gwynedd falls. So in the previous 200 years, the other Welsh kingdoms are being conquered bit by bit by invading Norman/English conquerors. And I do like to point out that England fell to the Normans in a couple of weeks in 1066. The Welsh, it took us over 200 years before the Normans took hold. But 1282, that's it. Gwynedd has been conquered, and all of the Welsh people are now under English rule. Part of Wales is directly ruled by the King of England. It's known as the Principality. And other parts of Wales are ruled by Norman knights. They're known as the Marcher Lords. And this is the scenario in Wales throughout the 1300s. It is key to point that when Owain Glyndwr is born, he is born into a Welsh people who are a conquered people and are ruled by the English. But Wales has never been united as one. It's never been a single polity. a single state. And I think that's important just to point out at the beginning, because it's going to show how important Owain Glyndwr is later on to the concept of nation building. Now, when Owain Glyndwr is born in between 1354 and 1359, it is a difficult period for the Welsh because they are adjusting to being under English rule. And there is some resistance to this. There's a series of bards, poets, who are pumping out political propaganda looking for what is called y Mab Darogan, the son of prophecy, which I've covered before. They're looking for a messiah to come along and save them from this English rule. And when Owain Glyndwr is a young man, there's actually another Owain who has been given this title. And his name is Owain Lawgoch. And that means Owen of the Red Hand. And very few people in Wales have ever heard of him, because he was actually born in England, raised in England, and then went across to France to serve on the French side during the 100 Years' War against the English. But he was directly descended from some of the ancient Welsh kings. And he wanted to come back and become a Prince of Wales. And the English got hold of this. The English found out about it. And what the English do, or Richard II, King of England, does, is he hires a Scotsman to go across to France and simply assassinate Owain Lawgoch. So in 1378, Owain Lawgoch is executed. He's assassinated. And this shifts all of the attention of the Welsh bards onto this other guy called Owain ap Griffith ap Griffith. Owen, the son of Griffith, the son of Griffith. And that is the man we know through the nickname Owain Glyndwr. Because Owain Glyndwr possesses an impeccable Welsh lineage. He is descended from 3 of the separate Welsh royal families. So these 3 kingdoms of Wales that once existed, Owain Glyndwr is descended 3 times over. So in the late 1380s, within the Welsh community, he is a person of quite high esteem, quite high respect, and the Welsh look up to him. They look up to him as something of a community leader. But he doesn't really have much tangible power. Power in what I would, for use of convenience, call Wales now, power in Wales is only given to Englishmen. Only Englishmen can have any power in Wales. And Owain Glyndwr is one of the most powerful Welshmen, and so too are his first cousins, who for convenience I will call the Tudor family. The Tudor family and Owain Glyndwr are first cousins. So this is the state of play in the 1380s. He is simply a man of great lineage, but with no real power, living in under a conquered people, you know. Now, there's much confusion about Owain Glyndwr today. Many people within Wales see him rightfully as being the father of Welsh nationalism, the man who led the Welsh revolt and the Welsh resistance against the English. And whilst that is true, that only comes into play later in his life. Again, Owain Glyndwr is not born into an independent Welsh kingdom, and he accepted this. As a young man, he accepted the reality of the situation. I'll give you a modern comparison. Within Wales today, or within Scotland for that matter, you have some people who do not like being ruled from Westminster. There are people who bristle at the idea of being ruled from Westminster. I would suggest I am probably one of those people, as a Welsh person who does not fully enjoy Westminster and how they govern Wales. But there is a reality here. We are governed from Westminster, and we simply get on and make the best of the situation. And that was the same for Owain Glyndwr. Now, he understood the importance as a young man of fostering positive relations with the English crown, and more importantly with his local lords, who were the Fitzalans. So the Fitzalans are one of those old English families of Norman blood who are the power in where Owain Glyndwr is born and raised in Flintshire, northeast Wales. And Owain Glyndwr, he works with the Fitzalans and he works with the English crown. He has an English wife. His father-in-law is a guy called David Hanmer. And David Hanmer is a very important figure in the English government. He is a Chief Justice of the King's Bench. He's an important lawyer in London. And he brings his son-in-law down to London to learn the law, to become part of the Inns of Court. In fact, Owain Glyndwr was actually in London during the Peasants' Revolt. So I wonder how he would have observed a bunch of English people beating the hell into each other. Maybe he found it all quite funny. But the point here is, here's a man who is part of the English system, even though he is from this great Welsh lineage. And he actually goes to fight for the English crown on their Scottish campaigns. So throughout the 1380s, he is a soldier fighting for the English king. This is often not mentioned when he is brought up today. It's a military apprenticeship that he has, going up to beat up some Scots. He goes down to Kent to defend the coast against the French, and it gives him valuable insight in how to lead people, how to be a leader in war. So he's a very important figure, but he is embraced by the English system. He is somebody who profited personally and professionally from being a Welshman working with the English. Now, the 1390s do prove to be a quieter decade for Owain Glyndwr, and opportunities start to not be afforded to him as much as they used to be. I mean, there's a lot of problems in England during the 1390s. This is, of course, the peak of Richard II's tyranny. There is chaos in England. But there's no evidence whatsoever as Owain Glyndwr or his cousins, the Tudors, in their middle age, are plotting any sort of revolution. They are not plotting to rise up and become Welsh nationalist leaders at this moment in time. They have made a pretty good life for themselves as loyal servants of the English crown. Now, anything to interject before I continue?
Can I ask a basic question? So his name's Owain Griffith. So where's the Glendower come from? Is that some kind of...
Yeah, it's kind of like a bastardization of the land that he was lord of. So right. His father and his father before him were the lords of Glyndŵr. And Glyndŵr is, it's a small holding in northeast Wales. So Glyndŵr is kind of like a contraction of Glyndŵr. So it's his home. Now, what I will point out there is, nobody expects English speakers to be able to pronounce Welsh names perfectly. But one thing as Welsh we do have a chip on our shoulder about is when people don't make the effort to at least try. I think it's better to try and mangle it than not try at all. And up until probably the last couple of years, I would say, he's always been named Owain Glyndwr whenever he's mentioned in English books, English cinema, anything to do with that period. And the name Owain Glyndwr is an Anglicisation invented by Shakespeare. And like us Welsh would say, we've mastered all sorts of foreign names over the years. The least we can do is at least try when it comes to Owain Glyndwr, especially in print books. You can just go to Wikipedia, for God's sake, and copy it. You did a perfect job earlier on this very Zoom. But thankfully, I've read quite a lot of books in the last couple of years, including Sceptred Isle, coming out soon by Helen Carr. And people are now starting to spell it correctly, put some respect on his name. He was our prince, come on. So thankfully that is starting to take hold.
Good.
I want to ask about his time in London at the Inns of Court. So is this where the Inns of Court, are they at Temple?
Yeah.
So like this where the Temple Church is now, where the legal heart of our kind of barristers are, he's there. So Owain is learning how the English do warfare and also how the English do law. I mean, if you're going to be a sleeper agent, it's like he's taken every spy's playbook and he's learned his enemy inside and out.
Absolutely. I mean, he is English in the way he conducts himself. He obviously has a proud Welsh bearing. He speaks Welsh. He is Welsh, but he's also very comfortable in the English system. And I think that is something that's not often remarked upon. He wasn't just some Welsh barbarian who came down from the mountains one day. I think that's misunderstood on both sides of this debate, because any discussion about Owain Glyndwr, like William Wallace in Scotland, has modern connotations when it comes to nationalism. And you can create Owain in your own image if you want, and that's what many people do. But they're not looking at the actual real man. And I include myself upon that. In my 20s, I had a very idealized nationalistic view of Owain Glyndwr. And when you study his life, it's actually far more interesting, the type of man and the type of opportunities and just how comfortable he was with English people. His wife was English. His father-in-law was English. His circle were English. He is not some random anti-English as a person figure.
Yeah.
And he has all this valuable experience, as you say, that he is able to later put to good use. I mean, somebody else who's similar to that, who's just come to mind, is Mahatma Gandhi and Nelson Mandela. Two, well, probably not as modern anymore, but recently modern figures who became leaders of their countries, but actually were very ingrained in the British Empire system during their youth. Mahatma Gandhi was a suit-wearing a member of, I think it's the Inns of Court in London as well. So
legal training, that legal understanding is something that is in the gears of revolution and in the gears of defiance, know the law of the people who are trying to oppress you. That is step one. And I think also, like, I spent some time working in and around the temple. I worked with like the Temple Church as part of research projects, and it is a incredible place. It's also a place where fitting in is, you have to speak a certain language. There is a cultural capital of expectation there. That, to me, the fact that Owain was invited by his father-in-law, that his father-in-law had no qualms about bringing him. This is an individual who can seamlessly absorb himself into he can go from being on the battlefield to being in this highly educated, rarefied, very intellectualized, nobby posh boy place, clearly fairly seamlessly. And I think that already speaks volumes about who he was.
And I'll give you another example. In September 1386, he is actually called upon to give evidence in Chester in what is regarded as the most famous medieval legal case that we have records of. And this is a heraldic dispute that takes place between the Scroop and the Grosvenor families.
Right.
Two families who over the centuries have ended up with the same coat of arms. And they're on campaign in Scotland, and they realise they got the same shield, and they go to war with each other over it. Bloody posh boys, I don't know. But it's a famous legal case, and he is one of the people who's called upon to give evidence, which I'd have to assume is done in the English tongue. It is evidence that he is a man of respect, that his word means something in this English system, even though the Welsh in general at this time are considered nothing more than buffoons, barbarians. They're not allowed to hold any office of note. You know, they very much are a second-class people in their own land. But Owain Glyndwr, because of the man he was and because of his connections, is clearly a man worthy of respect. And I'm going to suggest that you touched on something quite interesting, saying what type of man he is. That probably makes me think now that's why he had such success in what he did, whereas previous Welsh leaders, who might have been all heart but weren't all mind, weren't able to achieve half of what he was able to achieve. I mean, I would draw further distinctions going down the centuries back to my beloved Henry Tudor, who many people always criticize as being some sort of like Mammy's boy coward. That guy's leading armies across the Channel to death. I've said it hundreds of times and I'll say it again. There must have been something about him when he's looking into your eye and telling you to follow me. You know, the great leaders have that. Henry V had that. You know, Owain Glyndwr certainly has that.
And it just sounds to me like he is over time compiling a knowledge of the people that ultimately have taken over the control of his lands.
Yeah,
because even from the military to the legal, and now you've brought up the fact that he understands the heraldry. That is finicky nobility bullshit, but that is the stuff that these people live, sleep, eat, and breathe. The fact that he knows enough to be an expert witness in a court of law, this man knows the enemy inside and out, because of course he's married the enemy, hasn't he? He lives with the enemy. Does he see them?
Does he see them as enemy at the time he's marrying?
I wouldn't have thought so. No, I would have thought that he was a pragmatist, a realist. You know, his father and his grandfather before him were serving the local lords because that was pretty much all the Welsh had in the 1300s. They had been conquered. It was over. The princes were wiped out and you were left with a gentry class. And now, of course, some of them had Welsh royal blood in them, but you were left with this gentry class who had huge influence amongst the Welsh, but that was it. And that is also the Tudors. You know, there are groups of families who are, as I said earlier, they're community leaders, but they can't do anything. There's nothing for them to do other than to make the best of it. And this is what Owain Glyndwr is doing throughout the 1370s, 80s, and 90s. He's making the best of it. And he is looked upon very favourably by Richard II during this period because, as people of Richard II's reign will know, he tried to move the power away from London. And one of the areas he tried to really empower was Chester. You know, Richard II, when he became a despot, when he became a tyrant, hated throughout England, he was trying to move up to Cheshire to surround himself by the only part of England that was friendly to him. And that also included the men of North Wales. Two of the Tudor brothers were indentured servants of Richard II, and Richard II also looked favourably upon Owain Glyndwr. Now, the temptation is to suggest that Owain Glyndwr is building up all of this knowledge to then strike. But, you know, history's dangerous when you're looking through hindsight, when you're, you know, creating links that aren't there. Something happened that would drive Owain Glyndwr into revolution. And that something, ultimately, is the overthrow of Richard II and the rise of the House of Lancaster, which I'm happy to explore.
Please do.
Yeah. Okay, so, you know, obviously, during this entire period, there's growing unease in Wales amongst the Welsh. There's always been this unease that they are a conquered people. There is resentment growing as the century draws to a close. But so what? You have resentment. You can't do anything about it. You just have to put up and shut up ultimately, which is where the Welsh people are towards the end of the century. Even though there are constant claims of misgovernment, corruption, extortion, the English political class who have been planted into North Wales are really doing a number on the Welsh at this period. And again, the Welsh are a second-class citizen in their own land. There is no equity to offices. There's no opportunities. People like Owain Glyndwr are almost having to become English to just get a few scraps off the table. And even then, they're marrying into the English class to try and get those scraps. There are pockets of violence taking place. I think in 1385, there was a justiciar of England has gone into Wales and he's been murdered. So you're getting these small pockets of violence. And in essence, as law and order in England is breaking down under Richard II, it's also starting to break down in Wales. And you have an issue where Welsh hostility is starting to feed English fears that the Welsh are dangerous, but also English suppression is galvanizing Welsh spirits. And it's a dangerous cycle that's creating a toxic climate that's looking for the right spark. And the right spark is ultimately the alienation from royal favour of Owain Glyndwr. And as I said, that is when Richard II is overthrown and Henry IV comes to the English throne. Because what you have in North Wales at this time is you have a local English baron named Reginald Grey of Ruthyn. And he is a neighbour to Owain Glyndwr. And they have a bit of common land between their two estates. And essentially what Baron Grey has done is he's just seized the land for himself. He is one of the new king's best friends. He's very close to Henry IV, and he seizes the land. Owain Glyndwr goes nuts. I don't know why I've gone like I'm a soprano, but, Owain Glyndwr has gone completely nuts about this. You're stealing my land. Give it back. I'm going to write to the king. The king says, shut up and get on with it. Owain Glyndwr writes a letter to his neighbour, Reginald Grey, which I like. It feels very modern, going to put a note on the windscreen of a car rather than go around and knock on the door. He writes a letter saying, well, I'm going to steal your horses. And Reginald Grey goes, well, that's theft, and I'm going to have you hanged. So this little neighbour rivalry is starting to turn a bit nasty. Now, Henry IV is now going to Scotland on campaign, and he sends summonses around for people to bring men. And Owain Glyndwr, a man who has repeatedly gone to war for kings of England, is obviously expected to raise his men and take them to war. But Baron Grey hides the summons. And just like that, Owain Glyndwr has no-showed the king, and he's condemned as a traitor. Now, he is pressed into an incredible corner here, less than a year after being quite high in favour with the previous king. There's nothing to lose. He's in his I can't do the maths. He's in his early 50s at this point. A comfortable man, quite wealthy for a Welshman during this period. He's got many children, grandchildren even, and he's destroyed by what his neighbour has done because his neighbour was a bit of a naughty boy. Actually, this is history after dark. His neighbour was a knobhead. That's what his neighbour was, And we've all had knobhead neighbours, and it just turns out this Baron Grey was the biggest knobhead of all the knobheads. So
Baron Knobhead.
So Owain Glyndwr's response is explosive. On the 16th of September, 1400, at his home, surrounded by his kinsmen, his supporters, his family, he actually proclaims himself the Prince of Wales. So almost out of nowhere, he goes, screw this. I am the Prince of Wales. I reject English lordship. Henry IV is not my king, and I am going to war with the English crown. And as you suggested, Kat, he is cultured, he is well connected, he boasts for the Welsh an impeccable royal pedigree, and he has military experience. And it's for good reason that his in-house poet, Iolo Goch, describes him as now being, without doubt, the sole head of the Welsh. He is him, as the rappers would say today. He is him. This is the man, and he's going to lead us to victory. 2 days later, he leaves his estates. He goes directly for Baron Grey's estates.
Of course, does.
Burns them all to the ground.
I love it.
Awesome! Yay!
He then, in very quick succession, burns Denbigh, Rutland, Flint, Holt, Oswestry, and Welshpool, all Welsh towns today, but back then were viewed as centres of English oppression because they were towns created in Wales by the English to oppress the Welsh. He burns them all to the ground.
Cool.
I mean, if you're going to do it.
Yeah, he goes all out. I mean,
he did a Boudica on their ass.
He did.
They've already called him. They've already called him a traitor. He has nothing to lose. So screw it. Let's go all in. At the same time, over in Anglesey, on the other side of North Wales, his first cousins, the Tudors, are doing exactly the same thing. Nice. So I think this is actually a well-coordinated uprising. It didn't come out of nowhere. And I want to say, you might have to fact-check me on this, but I've got a feeling the 16th of September is also the birthday of the then Prince Henry, the future Henry V, who at that time was the English Prince of Wales. So I wonder if there's a bit of trolling going on here. You call your son the Prince of Wales. I am the Prince of Wales, boyo. So
I love it. The thing is, he tried to be reasonable. He was like, "This, my neighbour, is being a cheeky little fucker. Kingy, sort it out." He took it to the king. The king sorted him off, and then the neighbour fucks around with the summons. Turns out, when it comes to Owain, you fuck around, you find out.
Yeah. Again, it's a perfect storm. The Welsh have been pushed and pushed and pushed for the last century. There's been pockets of outbreaks of little revolts and murders and skirmishes, but nothing to this scale. You have pushed the one man you didn't want to push too far. And it is only at this very moment, in September 1400, in his 50s, with white hair on his head, probably a little pot belly from too much beer, do we get this leader of the Welsh? He wasn't a born nationalist leader. He had all of those grievances held inside, but he's been pushed. If he hadn't been pushed, if Richard II hadn't been deposed, we would not get this outbreak of violence. Otherwise, it would have happened before he got to an age that he was settling down for the end of his life. And this is the start of what I, as a Welshman, would term the last Welsh War of Independence, but it's still called in English circles Glyndŵr's Revolt or Glyndŵr's Rebellion, because obviously it's viewed as a simple rebellion against the English crown. But if you don't recognise the English crown, then it's a war of independence. And my God, what a war, what a rebellion it turned out to be.
16th of September, 1386, date of birth of Henry V. You were correct.
How's that for irrational? irrelevant knowledge.
I love it.
Yeah, totally
love
relevant though.
It's totally relevant.
I think you're onto
Yeah.
something there.
So,
Can I ask an aside question? So his children would be part English. So
Yeah.
how does the rule work if you're part English for being excluded or included in the ability to take up positions or own land and things like that?
Very good question. No, I'm not entirely sure of the answer. But what we have in the 14th century is, in theory, after the conquering of Wales, Welsh law is gone. It's pushed out to the side, and they're trying to impose English law, which in many ways is completely different to Welsh law. Just as a quick example, in England, primogeniture rules. You leave all of your lands, money, everything to your eldest son and your eldest son alone. In Wales, all children get equal inheritance. It's passable inheritance. But what the English lords in North Wales are doing is they're picking part of Welsh law and English law throughout the 14th century that suit them the best. It's corruption. It's part of this corrupt world that's taking place, where if Welsh law works to their advantage to guard their privileges, they're using Welsh law and they're using English law. The Welsh don't have that ability themselves. Now, to answer that particular question, I don't know exactly, but I would presume Owain Glyndwr would have been able to use whichever system was to his privilege and to his benefit, provided he's still on the right side of the local chief power, which is the Fitzalan family, or was the Fitzalan family, until Richard II chopped one of the heads off. Or if he remains on the right side of Richard II, which he was, he would have been able to get what he effectively wanted. Obviously, the problem he has is Baron Grey is friends with the new king, so now Baron Grey can run roughshod, and Owain Glyndwr's got no one to appeal to. So it's not that there were ways around it, but not everyone was an Owain Glyndwr embedded deep into the system.
I think it's one of those things. It's and we see it today with the way in which, broadly speaking, race, nationality, and class operate. That while Owain Glyndwr was in the Inns of Court and in the English army, he was one of the good ones. You could almost forget his Welshness, and his kids, their blood quantum could be forgotten. The second he steps out of line, my God, he's Welsh then.
Yeah, I would view it that way. And of course, once he now goes to war, it's, Wales goes to hell in a handbasket, really, because what Henry IV, again, it's difficult because people who study Owain Glyndwr, they're only looking at Glyndwr. People who are studying Henry IV and Richard II and the usurpation, they're only studying it from an English viewpoint. And these things are linked. Henry IV is facing rebellion all through England. He's got the Epiphany Rising. He's got people who are trying to restore Richard II. He's now got the Scots coming down to the border. So Henry IV is taking his army north to deal with the Scots. Remember, Owain Glyndwr never got his summons to this campaign. When suddenly half of Wales is on fire, Henry IV is like, what the fuck is going on?
Turn my back for a second.
Yeah.
And where's the fire?
Fucking kids.
and he's forced to turn his army and take it into North Wales to deal with the threat. He's got Glyndŵr going nuts. He's got the Tudors going nuts, and he goes in and he tries to suppress it. Now, Glyndŵr and the Tudors are very aware that they cannot go toe-to-toe with English might. So this is where we get their famous guerrilla war from.
Guerrilla.
Not that sort of guerrilla, Ken.
I thought we were talking about monkeys. That's what I thought we were going to be. Like, there was going to be a silverback situation. Maybe he had his own menagerie, a friendly Travis for general face ripping off. I don't know.
I don't want to take this too far off topic, but there's been a massive online discourse this week where one guy posted that he doesn't think 100 men
I heard about this.
Could take down a guerrilla.
100 men.
100 men, can they take down a guerrilla? The internet generally thinks a guerilla would absolutely destroy 100 men.
Yeah.
So,
we talk about 100 men unarmed and without a tranquilizer.
Yeah, just the men.
Yeah.
Just men.
Oh yeah, the gorilla would have them.
Yeah.
The gorilla would finish that situation.
All at the same time.
However, yeah.
If you've got nothing to tranquilize that gorilla, you're going to be ripped limb from limb. A fully grown gorilla, you're fucked.
You could pile on it and
mate,
bear with me. If all of them pile on it, the ones at the bottom are collateral damage. It's just unlucky. But if all of you are on top of it, you could posturally asphyxiate it and get it that way.
It will rip every single one of your faces off. Every single one.
I don't know. I'm not. The ones at the bottom are, but I don't know. I think
it's like the guy who went to Australia and was like, I could box a kangaroo. Only if you want to die. You could. He will punch you so hard, he will take your spleen out through your flesh. What are you talking about? You can't fight a kangaroo. You probably can't fight a fucking koala. That thing will give you chlamydia as soon as look at you.
Have you seen the guy who did manage to smack a kangaroo in the face though? When he had his dog in a headlock, and the guy goes up and the kangaroo's like, what happened there? I'm not used to losing. I'm not used to being smacked in the face.
Okay, let's end my detour and bring it all back to me.
Sorry, Nathan.
Guerrilla warfare.
So guerrilla warfare. So
the
English army have gone into Wales. There's no one there. Everyone's disappeared off up into the mountains. And they're picking them off like in Jurassic Park when the raptors are coming and they're taking people out at the back of the line. That's what the Welsh are doing, Apparently, Fidel Castro and Che Guevara were huge fans of Owain Glyndwr, and they viewed his guerrilla war inspired their own in the Cuban jungle in the 50s, which is another random detail. But apparently that's true. But anyway, so the English are like, where are all these Welsh bastards? They've disappeared. And winter sets in, and everyone takes a break. Henry,
little rest, little bit of Welsh cake, little bit of tea.
Yeah. Henry is still going.
Henry and his army.
Tired. It's cold. Can we just?
But this is the funny thing about the medieval period. All you come across all the time is it gets to October. And everyone just, especially with English armies in France, they just piss off home for the winter. Like they can't.
Would you want to fight in the winter? Because I wouldn't. The ground is a swamp. You'll get stuck in the mud. Your horse will get stuck in the mud. Your armor is already going to be covered in like blood, piss, and shit. You don't need to be knee deep in sinking mud. No one wants to fight. Fight in the summer.
But forget all.
Days are longer.
Fair weather fighters.
Forget all about this. Forget all this, chivalry and stuff. That's the perfect time to attack. Who's expecting a bunch of swamp men to come for your castle in November?
The Danes works out.
Yeah. Anyway, Henry IV and his army go back to London, and English Parliament meets at the start of January 1401, and they're only preoccupied with dealing with the Welsh. And what they do is they pass a series of really harsh laws against the Welsh, and these are known as the penal laws. And basically, the Welsh are now being collectively punished whether they are involved in the revolt or not. So, for example, new laws. Some of this had also been in place already de facto, but now it's on the statute books. No Englishman can be convicted in Wales on the word of a Welshman. So, if Owain Glyndwr going, my neighbour's an arsehole, that doesn't go anymore. That's tough. Sorry, that's not allowed. Welshmen were now banned from purchasing land in England and in Wales. Intermarriage is now outlawed. So now marrying the English and Welsh, if you do that, you give up all of your lands as an Englishman. All of your lands are gone if you marry a Welsh girl, so or vice versa.
Would any of this retrospective?
Well, Owain Glyndwr is tainted at this point anyway, so he loses all his lands, and his life is forfeit. I don't know if it's applied to other people, but it certainly is now in future, because there's quite a few interesting cases throughout the 15th century where rivals for a position. So, for example, in the 1430s, in my backyard, Carrick-Kenning Castle, there are two Englishmen vying for the position of constable. And one of them is Edmund Beaufort, who goes on to be the geezer who gets killed at the start of the Wars of the Roses. But he's a young guy at this time, and he wants the position. And he cries to Parliament that the man who holds the position, something Skidmore, John Skidmore probably, they're always called John Skidmore, he's actually married to a Welsh woman. And this is enough for English Parliament to strip him of his post and give it to Edmund Beaufort. So it is later weaponised, certainly in that way. But anyway, the Welsh are now barred from marrying English and vice versa. The few offices that the Welsh were allowed to have, like bailiff and sheriff, kind of quite low basic jobs, they're now barred. The Welsh are officially barred from holding any weapons of any kind. That's now barred. All the castle garrisons in Wales, so Conwy, Carnarvon, Harlech, Bangor, Beaumaris, they are now all going to be stuffed full of English soldiers, and the Welsh are going to have to pay for that. And finally, all of the Welsh poets are banned, because the English understand how powerful and potent the poetry coming out of Wales is. All of that poetry saying that Owain Glyndwr is now the son of prophecy. This is galvanizing the Welsh, so the English ban it outright. We obviously know from previous discussions, Henry Tudor is able to weaponize this poetry 80 years later. So the poets are banned. So these are racist laws. These are punishing the Welsh solely on their nationality, not whether they are individual transgressors. If you are Welsh, you are being punished by these laws. And again, you can make an argument from the English point of view, from English Parliament trying to enforce law and order. There's an argument that this makes sense. This is the medieval period after all. There's no such thing as human rights. These are designed to protect English residents in Wales, but they did not have the intended effect for the government, because what's now happening is there are Welshmen seeing this as not being fair and are suddenly flocking to Glyndwr's side. This is not fair. You've gone too far now. Why am I being punished? Screw it. I'm going to pick up my poleaxe and I'm going to go to fight for the mad Welsh guy calling himself a prince as well. And then we have sustained across the next couple of years this constant guerrilla warfare. English armies going into Wales, the Welsh ambushing them and disappearing, rinse and repeat across the next couple of years. And we have some very famous incidents that take place. We have the Tudor brothers, who only 40 of them, not 40 Tudor brothers, 2 Tudor brothers, and I guess 38 of their men, capture Conwy Castle by one of them pretending to be a carpenter. So the Tudors inflict this incredibly embarrassing and humiliation on the English crown. Owain Glyndwr's men, despite being experts in ambush, they do win 2 battles in the field. And Glyndwr now is pushing his war out of his native northeast Wales, and he's moved it into South Wales. He is now all around Pembrokeshire, Glamorgan, Cardiff. He is down these areas. Are you with me? If you're with me, great. If you're not, I'm going to burn your town down. And one of my, I'm a Swansea football fan. Some of you won't understand this, but one of my favourite...
no one understands it.
Yeah, one of my favourite pieces of trivia is that Cardiff, the people of Cardiff stay loyal to the English crown, so he burns Cardiff to the ground. Now, Cardiff today is the capital of Wales. It's a proud bastion of Welshness. And in the centre of Cardiff to this day, one of their most famous pubs is called the Owain Glyndwr. And people love it. If you're Welsh, proud to be Welsh, you go to Cardiff, you go to Owain Glyndwr for a pint of beer, and you sing Welsh songs. And the fact is, he hated Cardiff, and he burnt the place to the ground. So, there we go. But anyway, you know, he is now, his revolt is now,
yes,
it's now gone national, and he is known as the Dragon because he raises a banner with a golden dragon. And this is part of what the propaganda is saying, that there will one day be a golden child, a golden messiah, the son of prophecy, raising a dragon flag, who will come and lead the people to freedom. We all know there's a later guy who also uses a dragon to claim that he is the son of prophecy still. And this is it. We now have a national war taking place. Yeah. Questions before I...
He's also very dragony on account of the arson. Like, he is a fire-breathing...
Maybe he'd actually have a small dragon.
Is he in fact Daenerys?
It's very Game of Thrones, yeah. Burning. Yeah. I mean, this guy sets Wales ablaze. You know, Wales is destroyed by this Glyndŵr war. And
you know, we have all the merch. Sorry, like the merch with the Normans setting everything alight, and so now we need one for this.
We're going to do a variety. We're going to do Norman, Viking conflict management, Norman, Iceni, and now I think Owain Glyndwr's conflict management system is just a box of matches.
Yeah. You know, and Glyndŵr, he reaches his zenith really 4 years into this campaign. We get to like 1404, and essentially what's happened is, for example, the previous year he wins a battle at Pilleth, and he captures a guy called Edmund Mortimer. Now, Edmund Mortimer is a man descended from King Edward III. The Mortimers, many believe, in 1400 were the rightful heirs to the English crown, not Richard II. And this is a bloodline that would cause significant issues 50 years later when the Mortimer claim is inherited by the House of York. But back in 1403, a guy named Edmund Mortimer is captured by Glyndŵr, and he tries to ransom him back to the English to gain money. Henry IV, again, possibly has usurped the position of the Mortimers, goes, nah, I'm not paying that. I'm not bothering with that. Now, Mortimer himself is not the Mortimer claimant. That's his nephew. But he is still a very important person. And this creates an incredible series of events. Mortimer goes, well, you know what? Screw you then, Henry IV. I'm switching to the Welsh side. And he marries Owain Glyndwr's daughter, Catherine. So this English noble with English royal blood is now on Glyndwr's side, and he's pledging to bring the whole Mortimer bloodline over to the side. And not only that, by not paying the ransom, Henry IV has pissed off his most powerful nobles, which are the Percy family, because Edmund Mortimer's brother-in-law is Henry Hotspur Percy, the greatest English military man of his day. And now the Percys are rebelling. So Henry IV has lost the Mortimers, he's lost the Percys, and they've all gone to join together in this, group of three, this trio, who are now going to try and bring the Lancastrians down.
Why has no one made a film about this?
Well, I mean, Michael Sheen is now doing a play about it called Owain and Henry, which is going to be bloody amazing because it's Michael Sheen. So fingers crossed. I am hassling them to let me come on board, and I'll be sending them this YouTube link tomorrow for definite. Hey, Michael, how you doing, mate? Watch this, please.
There's some info.
And again, I'm not going to go into detail because obviously time is kind of getting on. But as most people in England who study this period in English history know, in 1403, Henry Hotspur leads an army against Henry IV at the Battle of Shrewsbury, and he loses because he didn't wait for Owain Glyndwr's Welsh troops to meet up with him. He went into battle, he lost, and he got himself killed and impaled on a spear. And this is, of course, the very famous battle where the 16-year-old English Prince of Wales, Prince Henry, the future Henry V, gets speared in his cheek by an arrow. But this battle, this famous battle with the future Henry V, it's all part of the Glyndŵr Wars. It's all part of the same cinematic universe, for lack of a better thing. And it is a setback for Glyndŵr, but he carries on. Him, Edmund Mortimer, and Hotspur's father, Henry Percy, the Earl of Northumberland, they now sign the most incredible agreement. It's called the Tripartite indenture. And what they say they're going to do is they're going to kill the Lancastrians and they're going to split the kingdom into three. Owain Glyndwr is going to become Prince of Wales, and he is going to have not just Wales as we know it, but all of the lands that include Shropshire, Herefordshire, Worcestershire, everything up to modern-day Birmingham is going to be Wales, which includes all the best rugby teams, so that would have been awesome. The north of England is going to be a new kingdom under the Percys, and the south of England is going to be a new kingdom under the Mortimers. And think what if this had occurred? Think of how much our history would have changed if we had three brand new kingdoms take place. England would have been rubbish at football. Wales would have been better at rugby, for example. But obviously it never came off. But that is such a sign of ambition. And this happens again. This is Glyndwr's peak. 1404. He has he hosts the Welsh Parliament, and what you've got to understand is that since the Welsh had been conquered in 1282, I'm not very good at maths. What's that? 130 years previously, the Welsh had never been allowed parliamentary representation in English parliaments. They had no rights. They had no representation. Glyndwr is now hosting his first ever parliament. He invites a couple of Welshmen from each. They're called commots. I guess they're kind of like 100 areas. He invites a couple of Welshmen from every area of Wales to come to his parliament, and they actually see him crowned. He is crowned a Prince of Wales. He now announces his name is Owain, by the grace of God, Prince of Wales, and he has a seal made. He sits on his throne and he starts to sign documents using a regnal year. He is now fully posturing that he is an independent ruler of a country he has almost completely freed from English power. At this parliament, there are people from ambassadors from France, Scotland, Castile, and Italy who are watching this, recognizing him, and taking news home. And this is the moment that Glyndwr becomes a great man in Welsh history. He outlines his vision for what he wants his independent Wales to be. What he says is, when Wales is independent, he is going to create a separate Welsh church. He's going to remove Wales from the Anglican church. He's going to create a Welsh church. He's going to create two national universities. He's going to have one university in North Wales and one university in South Wales. And he's going to return all of Wales and all of the Welsh people to the ancient Welsh laws. For the first time in history, he says, Wales is going to be a united state for all Welsh people, not what it had been up to that point, which was once a smattering of independent kingdoms and now basically a bunch of English lordships that are all governed differently in different parts of Wales, depending who the lord is. He is going to create a Welsh state that is remarkably progressive and ahead of its time. And in fact, Wales would get universities, it would get a Welsh Parliament, and it would get a Welsh church, but only in the 20th century. Owain Glyndwr is asking for all of this in 1404. To that end, he writes a letter to Charles VI, the King of France, requesting arms, money, and soldiers to enforce his vision. And Charles VI, for his own French, reasons, because he hates the English, agrees. And a Welsh-French treaty is agreed in July 1404. Think about what that means. In the eyes of France in 1404, Owain Glyndwr is the independent prince of his own state. That is the position of play in 1404.
Well, how old is he at that point?
If he was born in the 1350s, what are we looking at? Between 50 to 60, depending which year he was born in, which we don't know.
I do think it's really interesting you get an incredible window into what he recognizes and understands to be the makings of a successful, cohesive state. That there's military prowess, there's governance, but there is also homegrown expertise. And the fact that right up front and center, we're going to make 2 universities. 2. We're going to have our own parliament and we're going to make 2 universities. That recognition of the importance of that, of not allowing brain drain, of keeping the best and brightest in country, and allowing them to prosper. I think he shows he's, as we know from everything you've told us, he's not power hungry. He's not a warlord. He can do those things. He can, but he understands what makes social and state cohesion, what makes nationhood, in ways that I think frequently, even down the centuries, get lost. The things that actually matter get persistently devalued in search of other things that doesn't make a state, not a successful one.
Yeah, I mean, it's remarkable. It really is. And I think something else that we should just briefly touch on is, again, some people will know from reading the books of Helen Castor and so on, that in 1405, the same period we're talking about, there is a plot in England to take the 2 young Mortimer boys, who are our Edmund Mortimer's nephews, who are arguably the heirs to the English crown, not the Lancastrians, not Henry IV. There is a plot by their auntie, Constance of York, to kidnap them and take them to Wales. And she does get hold of the boys, but she only gets as far as Bristol when she is captured and the boys are brought back to London and thrown back into the Tower of London. The intention is to get those boys to Wales and get them to their uncle, Edmund Mortimer. Think what that would have meant for the House of Lancaster. Those boys could have been crowned in Wales, the rightful kings of England. I don't want to go down this rabbit hole, but this is why I go forward to the Princes in the Tower and say those boys, I believe, were killed because of what the Mortimers represented 80 years earlier. The Mortimers were being used at this time to potentially be raised up to a kingship, and they were not killed. And 50 years later, their blood was used to take the English crown through the House of York. That is the ultimate precedent for going forward to the Princes in the Tower. You know what? Let's not go through all this again. Let's just end it once and for all.
See, the Guardians take the argument the opposite way, don't they? They say the fact that they didn't have to be killed proves that they knew they didn't have to kill the princes in the Tower. So
exactly. I mean, me and Matt Lewis have debated, the Mortimers constantly on stage over the years, and it's a stalemate. Both of our points
Yeah.
This is why me and Matt Lewis are very good debating it. We know we don't have a knockout blow. We've only got jabs. We can only jab each other back and forth. That's all we can do. We cannot knock each other out. He might be able to knock me out, I'm not sure, in an actual fight. But with regards to people on both sides of that Princess in the Tower debate who go on and on all day long that they've solved the case, Richard definitely did it, Richard didn't do it. For the want of making myself boring myself, they don't know what they're talking about. They're not studying it close enough. You have a jab, that's all. And yes, the Mortimer boy, you can turn that on both sides, which makes it fascinating. Back to our story, there's definitely not even a plot. Like, she nearly did it to get those boys into Wales. That would have turned all of this on its head. Because if you've suddenly got the young Mortimer boys in Wales, one of them gets crowned. Behold, you're your real King of England. God, would Henry IV have lost half his nobility at that moment?
Probably, yeah.
I mean, it's no wonder that towards the end of Henry IV's reign, he is like scrofulous, his hair all falls out. He's like saying to his son Henry, don't bother. This is shit. Shit.
Like, and he's fallen out with his son. His son, So this is. I'm just going back to Shrewsbury, and then obviously with the Mortimer boys. These are really pivotal moments that that we didn't. People don't generally know about, and just how different it would have been if Owain was there at Shrewsbury, if Percy doesn't get killed, if the future Henry V did get killed or died from the arrow wound. It was really close run thing.
It's remarkable. One thing I will also touch on at this point is, I like Henry IV. You got to remember, I wrote The House of Beaufort, which is very much looking at things from Henry IV's vantage point. So I can see both of their positions. Henry IV is one of my favourite kings of England. He's certainly not a baddie in my eyes for the story. But you've got, in effect, during this period, two princes of Wales. You've got Prince Henry and you've got Owain Glyndwr. And it's actually quite what's his name? What's that guy's name? Dan Jones. Dan Jones very, very heavily touches on this in his book, Henry V, about what this meant to young 15, 16, 17-year-old Prince Henry, who is viewing his birthright as being taken away from him by this grey-haired Welshman. It is personal to young Prince Henry. He is the man who's in Wales throughout this decade on the front lines fighting. It is where he gets his apprenticeship. And we all know the warlord that he went on to become. He didn't invade France in 1415 and suddenly magically be this world-class butcherer of men. He's picking this up, this apprenticeship, as a teenage boy in Wales with an arrow sticking out of his head. He is learning to take and defend what he thinks is his. And that is the Prince of Wales title. And then the same thing works in his head. The Kingdom of France is mine and I want it. These are lessons that are pivotal in understanding English history. And again, I can whinge all day long that the Welsh aspect has long been removed from these stories because the Welsh don't want to accept that we are entwined with English history, whether we like it or not. And the English need to understand that, the Welsh did have significant bearings on the shaping of English history as well.
Yeah, I think it's uncomfortable. It would have been uncomfortable for a lot of English scholars to recognise that, particularly in this period, it's actually Wales that's calling the tune, and English players are reacting and responding, and sometimes on the back foot. And that is not how often history is presented. It's things are done to Wales. They are a rabble, blah, 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 blah. In this situation, and I'm sure in many other situations, they are the ones pulling the strings. They are the ones calling the tune. They are the ones with the higher ground. So what happens next?
So, I mean, this is the zenith. This is the peak. This is 1405. Owain Glyndwr is on top of the world. And then things start to go wrong quite quickly. In May 1405, his brother is killed trying to attack Usk Castle, and one of his sons is captured. Now, that August, a French army actually lands in Milford Haven, as it would do 8 years later under Henry Tudor. It lands in Milford Haven, and they march with Owain Glyndwr's men, this Franco-Welsh army. They march all the way through South Wales, burning all the English towns, Pembroke, Tenby, probably Cardiff again, until they get to Worcester, or just a field outside Worcester. And an English army's there. And we have, I think it said it's 8 days where these two armies are looking at each other. And then for reasons we don't quite know, the French turn around and leave. And they don't come back. And that's another pivotal what-if moment. What if this French-Welsh army defeats the cream of England at the Battle of Worcester? What happens then? The French, they turn and they go. And from that point on, Owain Glyndwr's crusade is in freefall. In North Wales, Prince Henry is really getting his feet stuck in now, and he's starting to win back all of those lands that have previously been taken. He is promising pardons to Welshmen, and Welshmen are starting to take the pardons. And once Glyndwr loses these Welshmen, who, for their own self-interests are abandoning the cause, they've lost the day. They've lost to the might of the English. The Welsh families who do not surrender at this point are completely wiped out, and that includes the Tudor family. We know the next generation, Owain Tudor, he has to leave his homeland behind because there's nothing left there for him. The lands are scorched. His family's been destroyed as the chief rebels, and he's got nothing left to do than to leave Wales as a refugee and go to England. And that obviously moves the story into a completely different, even more weird direction. And that's it. Worst of all for Owain Glyndwr is in 1408, he loses Harlech Castle. And this was a major English castle he had won 4 years earlier, and he had transformed into his administrative, military, and residential headquarters. This was his capital, Harlech Castle. And now, when he wasn't there, it's been captured by Prince Henry. Edmund Mortimer is killed. And Owain Glyndwr's wife, daughter, who is married to Edmund Mortimer, and granddaughters are captured by the English. They're sent to the Tower of London, where they all are dead within 6 years. Now, I'm not going to go as far as to say they were murdered, but the facts are within 6 years, they are dead. And I wonder, because some of Owain Glyndwr's sons survived these wars, so there isn't a purge of the Glyndwr bloodline here. But those grandchildren of Owain Glyndwr, they have Mortimer blood in them. And I wonder if they were wiped out or, starved or left to live in a plague-ridden chamber or something, because, that's quite a potential threat, having these daughters who could marry men and pass on a bloodline that is from all of that ancient Welsh pedigrees and has a claim to the English throne in them. That's a potent, troublesome mix that, ironically, once again, a future Lancastrian himself would have in his veins and would use to devastating effect.
Yeah. And the thing is that the Tower of London, while it is, not necessarily in the most salubrious of environs, it can be a place of extraordinary luxury. If, certain pirates can be fairly happily imprisoned there for 13 odd years with seemingly no effect upon their health. To lose 3 women in 6 years, I mean, correlation and causation are different, but to lose one is very sad and an accident. To lose 2 is questionable. To lose 3 is a concerted effort.
And what I would say is the English do have a long history of extinguishing Welsh royal bloodlines. This is part of the policy during the 11th and 12th centuries in conquering Wales, is to try and ensure that some of that bloodline is gone. It wouldn't be the first, it wouldn't be the last. I'd certainly stress it wouldn't be the last, because I believe the Princes in the Tower were another bloodline within the family. George Duke of Clarence isn't, you can argue all day long, George Duke of Clarence, that guy's a knobhead as well and deserved to be killed. He's a traitor, he deserves to be killed. But that's Edward IV's brother, man. The guy is challenging his throne directly. He snuffs him out. The Beauforts were snuffed out. The Lancastrians themselves were snuffed out. This is something that does occur repeatedly throughout this period.
But it has to. It has to, because when the thing is that you might spend all your life fighting to get yourself onto the dais and onto the throne with the crown upon your head, but you're going to spend the rest of your natural life making sure that nobody comes for you with like a thief in the night with a blade or poison or an army. Because that is the penalty for being a medieval monarch, particularly a medieval monarch in this time of the changing factions and families. To quote Game of Thrones again, Cersei is right. In the Game of Thrones, you win or you die. And if they don't come for you, they'll come for your kids.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, that basic principle is, again, my overriding view of the Princes in the Tower. We delve so deep into the minute details of what can this possible letter reveal? What about this one, payment record? We're losing sight of the very basic big picture, which is threat must die.
Yeah.
The rest of it is reverse engineering whatever theory you want.
It's so weird to me with the Prince in the Tower, because all of the people that kind of go, well, I don't think killing of little boys and blah blah blah. The second I say to anybody, okay, so let's say they survive, and Henry VII, after Bosworth, rocks up, opens up the door to the garden tower, bada bing, bada boom, there are 2 boys there. And I say, what does Henry do? And every single person says he murders them. So if you can accept that the only course of action for Henry VII is to slit those boys' throat or defenestrate them or smother them because they are there and exist, why is it so hard to believe that it would be the same course of action for anybody else?
Well, the answer comes back, of course, is that, well, the boys were illegitimate. Richard said they were illegitimate. And I'm like, Edward IV was banned from taking the throne when he became king. Henry VI was. Henry Tudor most definitely was attainted as a rebel when he took the throne. Pieces of paper don't mean shit when you have friendly parliaments. Look at the modern day. You've got friendly parliaments across the world. In democracies, you're able to see through whatever they want. Anyway, let's bring Owain Glyndwr's life to a close. He's lost his castles, he's lost his men, he's lost at least access to his wife and his daughter. He spends the period from 1408 to roughly 1412 living back in the mountains whence his rebellion started. He's occasionally coming out to lead raids on English garrisons or towns, but really that's wiping out a couple of people, maybe getting some food and going back to the castle, back to the mountains. And he keeps on doing it until one day he simply doesn't resurface. Now, there are very large rewards throughout this period offered for his capture. I think this is very key for his standing amongst his people. Even if those people, many of them had now submitted back to English rule, Owain Glyndwr is never betrayed by his people. I think that is a measure of respect that he retains, even at his lowest ebb, as now a rebel, an old rebel, pushing 60, an old rebel up in the mountains. By 1414, the men of Bala, which is a town a couple of miles away from where he's from, 600 of them are rounded up, and they are forced, well, not forced, I mean, they do it. They swear loyalty to the English crown. And I would suggest this is showing that the war is over. Even Owain Glyndwr's own kinsmen are now accepting pardons. His son accepts a pardon. And in 1415, we have Adam of Usk, who is the principal chronicler of all of this I've said tonight, a Welsh chronicler who is on the ground during the years. He writes that in 1415, Owain Glyndwr was buried at night by his followers, but once the burial place was discovered, he was reburied, and nobody knows where. And that's all we can really say. Of course, history being history, there are many people over the years who claim they found Owain Glyndwr's burial mound, and Herefordshire seems to be the most popular place because he had a daughter who ended up living in Herefordshire. And the favourite theory is that he actually retired there as an old man and lived out his days. I mean, I'm inclined to believe he went up to the mountain, he's 60, he's got no money, he's got no food, and he just died. You know, there isn't a happy ending. Yeah, I don't believe.
There's always, whenever anyone, there's always this, well, it's a trend now, isn't it? Oh no, they lived out their lives in comfort somewhere, being looked after by a family member.
Well, it very much fits into that kind of Welsh folklore. You know, folklore is a huge thing, certainly in Wales of past days. And Glyndŵr fits very well into that. It fits into the whole Arthurian legends. You know, the mythology that King Arthur is going to come back. It is Owain Glyndwr is waiting to come back to save Wales at her lowest ebb. I don't know how many more low ebbs Wales can go through without Owain Glyndwr coming along to save us. I mean, look at
so when you said it was the last war of independence, are you sure?
Well, we'll see. You know, if you go through Wales today, you'll see many stickers on lampposts which seem to be suggesting that troubled times are ahead. You never know with the Welsh. The medieval English government were always very wary of upsetting the Welsh because we were violent people, but I suppose Henry Tudor came along and ended all of that. But of course, Glyndwr's legacy is massive in modern day Wales, which is on one hand ironic because he left Wales in a lot worse state than he found it. Because Wales certainly wasn't a great place to be a Welshman during his, before his birth, but because of those penal laws, they stayed in place against the Welsh. All of those rules barring the Welsh remained in place throughout the 15th century. Wales had been scorched to the ground. All those lands were destroyed. You're thinking of an economic crisis taking place. Again, look at certain places in the world today that have been completely razed to the ground. You're not having food, you're not having energy and so on during the aftermath of a brutal war, which is exactly what Wales was. Some Welshmen were able to get out into England and make new starts, but even then, they were forced to seek something called denizanship, which is like citizenship. Owain Tudor, when he's in England, he's still barred from doing all of this thing. So he's got to seek a legal protection to almost become an Englishman to get rights to do things. Because his sons, Edmund and Jasper Tudor, were not technically allowed to do anything if their dad had remained, according to the law, a Welshman. So luckily for them, their dad got those rights, passing on to their son. It sounds very modern in many ways. These guys were very progressive in some of their ways of being. We should give them a bit more credit. So Glyndŵr definitely leaves Wales far worse off. A punished people collectively. But it is true to say that grandiose vision of an independent Wales for the Welsh people, something which didn't really exist before that. Various Welsh princes had at times conquered some of the other kingdoms to create a bloc that is kind of like Wales, but as soon as they died, everything split up again because of that partial inheritance rule that the Welsh have going on. Glyndŵr is the first one to really push this idea of a Welsh state, and his vision and his name has been exploited all the way up to the various day for various ideologies that you can mend Glyndŵr into being who you want him to be. And that's not unique to Wales. Look at England. How many, Churchill and everybody else, so many Henry V, you mold them into the vision you want them to be. And we all bring, of course, our biases to the subject, and we see in our history the people who want them to. So it's true. Today he's shrouded in myth, but he is, I would suggest, the father of modern Welsh nationalism in its good ways and its bad ways. And his defiance, I guess, it resonates today. Of course, it resonates sometimes in a very bad way, anti-English racism even, but it does also resonate in a positive way of that Welsh pride, that Welsh defiance, that Welsh resilience. Our most famous song, Yma o Hyd, it means still here. We are still here as a people all these centuries later, and Glyndŵr plays a very important part in that, even if I still maintain a lot of people are not looking at the real Glyndŵr. But like 16th of September is Owain Glyndwr Day. Every year, Welsh people celebrate. It's also my mother's birthday, but as I always tell her, she is not the most important person to me on that particular day. It is Owain Glyndwr. We will wave our little flags and we'll wave our little dragons around. But look at the Welsh football manager, Craig Bellamy. He has an Owain Glyndwr tattoo on his forearm. He says that always gave him that pride every time he stepped foot onto the field. In 2004, there was a poll, 100 Welsh heroes, and Owain Glyndwr came second. He came second to Aneurin Bevan, which I think I agree. Aneurin Bevan is my guy. Owain Glyndwr number 2. Do you know who came number 3?
Tom Jones.
It was Tom Jones. Now, one of my lovely ladies, Catherine Zeta-Jones, came number 13. So I'm not sure. I'm not sure of the veracity of this poll, but it does show at least that Glyndŵr is present. He's present in Wales. And as I touched on earlier, his vision was eventually realised. It just took 600 years for Wales to have a parliament, universities, a Welsh church. Of course, Wales is not an independent state yet. But, he's a titan of Wales. And I hate to use this comparison, but I'm going to use it simply because Hollywood has made the concept global. He is our William Wallace. That's who he is, although probably as misunderstood as William Wallace is as well. And that ends my political campaign to get Owain Glyndwr's.
Nathan, when is your book on this coming out?
I am not going to write a book on Owain Glyndwr.
Don't give me that.
I will tell you. I will tell you for why. It is because there is a very, very good mutual friend of ours who's had this idea for a very long time. And in the interest of friendship, fair dibs. I
It's
will leave it to
funny.
him. I have joked that I will steal the idea, but I don't think that would be the mark of chivalry that Owain Glyndwr himself might very well espouse.
Well,
Fair enough. Well played.
And there is a very good book out already, came out maybe 10 years ago by a guy called Gideon Brough. I don't know how to say his surname. And there is the perfect academic book by a guy called R.R. Davis on Owain Glyndwr. So there are very good books out there. I do think I could do a good job, but
no doubt.
But
I mean, you cover him in Son of Prophecy, don't you, as well?
yeah.
So,
I was
you've done
careful
some
to.
for him.
I was careful to cover a lot of Glyndŵr. And Glyndŵr is someone you can write a book about because there's a lot there. People ask me all the time, when will I write a book about Owain Tudor? And the fact is, you cannot write more than what I've done in 2 chapters in Son of Prophecy because there really isn't that much to say about Owain Tudor. So stop hassling me about that and read Son of Prophecy.
No, look, right, here's what right. Your friend can write the book, the biography, but you can write the screenplay.
Aha.
Well, I mean, I think it's time to start branching out into other things, isn't it? And try and
I think so. Write the screenplay.
Yeah, maybe we'll see. Again, I'm still trying to hassle Michael Sheen to get me on board.
Yeah, he does the play. You write a screenplay. Has to be about that. He can be Owain in your screenplay. I mean, I've cast it for you.
I sent the book. I was like, look, mate. Right, I've written a book about Owain Glyndwr, but I'm not some sort of crazy nationalist lover of him because I've also written The Bloody House of Beaufort, which is basically a book about Henry IV. I know the lives of both the men that you're doing an entire play about. You need me, mate. That's what I said to him.
Yeah.
He does.
I begged a little bit. Come on, please.
Oh, we could start a campaign.
Yeah, maybe.
Then all get blocked.
Well, there we go.
That's fascinating. I think the fact that he died probably in the mountains somewhere is so fitting.
Yeah, I think so. Like I say, if you go onto Wikipedia, there is a section where it kind of shows some of the claims with the associated, I don't know, BBC links. It's interesting. Maybe we'll get Philippa Langley on it. Maybe she can find him.
Sorry.
I'm being serious. Joke.
She has got a knack, to be fair.
Yeah.
She's like dividing rod for dead kids.
Yeah.
She'll find a water source and dead kings. Like she's like those coat hangers.
Yeah. Yeah.
And one thing that's interesting is that in Wales, most people, maybe not most people, I don't know what the latest polling is, but it's quite controversial. You know, some people don't view these princes of Wales we have, who's the current one, Prince William, as our princes of Wales. I mean, I am one of them. Obviously, I'm a pragmatist. He's a Prince of Wales, in fact. But I'm very ambivalent to the concept of modern Princes of Wales. I don't think that should be a title anymore. Very much is a colonial title in many ways. That is what it is. I don't think it does well in the modern age. And many Welsh people do view Owain Glyndwr as the last real Prince of Wales. They call him the last native Prince of Wales as well. I would say Henry Tudor was, because Henry Tudor did actually call himself the Prince of Wales, and he was a Welsh-born, Welsh-raised, Welsh-blooded, etc. man. But certainly Owain Glyndwr still holds that, that esteem in the eyes of many Welsh as the last Prince of Wales. And I think it's an incredible story.
It is.
It is an incredible story. Really, really. There's so many pinch points, but pivotal points in it that could have just switched history down a completely different path. It's absolutely fascinating.
Simultaneously into silence on more than one occasion, and that's got to be some sort of world record.
Shall I turn into a talk and take it on the road?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Gloucester, Warwick. I'll do them all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It should do.
Yeah, I think I think the Welsh castles as well go from castle to castle, and I think you may well find that Cymru would rise again if you told the story where you just told it. I think Hiraeth will be a thing of the past, to be honest.
Shall I go castle to castle in the order that Glyndŵr burnt them all down?
I think so. Possibly with a flaming torch, just as a precaution.
And a small dragon.
In case you feel the need to.
A tiny dragon upon your shoulder, like a parrot, a flaming torch, and your speech. I like it.
There he is.
There you go. Look, you're halfway there.
You're there. You see, you've already got the props. Just need to get the flaming torch. You can
or a little Vera.
One on each shoulder, like fun shoulder pads. Why not? Like, who needs epaulets when you can have that?
Vera was supposed to come with you.
As always, my gosh, it's been an absolute joy having you and sharing with us your incredible knowledge. Thank you.
That was
always a pleasure. So good, so interesting.
Well,
and I'm seeing the comments rolling in, and people are absolutely loving it.
I hope everyone enjoyed.
But it seems to be.
So there was lots of I was keeping up. That's the most.
We do have to thank some people, actually.
Yeah, let's just do these, and then we'll get you Owain. We'll get you, Nathan, to tell everybody where they can find you online. But if we just say a quick shout out to Nick and Jean for your super chat. Thank you so much.
Thank you so
much.
And
also to La
Serena
Sadia. Is that how you say it? Okay. Lovely. Thank you so much. Much appreciated.
The Fresh Prince of Cymru. Yes. that's you.
As a proper Will Smith super fan, I'm okay with that.
You take that one.
Yeah.
In West Wrexham, born and raised.
There's actually a Welsh rap group called Goldie Looking Chain.
Who've
done the Fresh Prince of Cymru. And it's funny. It is
My
funny.
kids absolutely love Goldie Looking Chain. I did look up actually whether they were still on they were still touring, and they are.
Oh,
so
they're amazing.
See them.
They're brilliant. Yeah, you know, when I was growing up, we all loved Goldie Looking Chain before they went onto a proper record label, and it was quite funny because they'd done so much kind of like pirated songs. Their first official debut album, they called it Greatest Hits. And people didn't quite get it because how can you have a greatest hits for your first album? It's like, no, come to Wales. They've been touring the working men's clubs for years.
Excellent. They're so good.
Thank you.
So where can people find you, Nathan? Well, let's point them in your direction.
You can find me everywhere on the internet under my name, Nathen Amin. But please subscribe to my Substack. Please come and join me because I'm working hard writing all these articles and doing all these videos and doing all these interviews, and I want people to actually see it. So nathenamin.substack.com. Come and learn more and speak to me. I'll reply on Substack. I won't reply anywhere else.
There you go.
That's fair.
Well, the direct route. And if Sheen's listening,
come on, Sheen.
Mr. Sheen, Substack's the place to find him. Thank you.
Yeah, I will give you the title, The Real Prince of Wales, happily, Michael Sheen, my all-time modern superstar Welsh hero. You were a legend before you did this new play, but now you're a super legend. So,
am I correct? He's the artistic director now of the Royal Theatre of Wales.
Yes. So because of governmental cuts, the National Theatre of Wales was shut down, which meant there basically was no cultural output for acting on stage in all of Wales. Which, come on, you know, we've really given some great actors. Over the years, and suddenly because of cuts, Welsh culture is now removed. So he's obviously lost his plot and has sunk most of his money into creating his own Welsh Theatre of Wales to fill the void. Because
wow, yeah, that's amazing.
What is that all about? I mean, he is somebody who operates as not-for-profit. So all the money he makes, he reinvests completely into opportunities for Welsh people in the arts and culture. And there was a show recently about him literally buying the debt of young people and getting rid of it. He's always been a remarkable
Everything
man.
I've ever seen or heard about him has been incredibly positive. And on top of that, he is a beautiful actor. Just lovely actor, as well as he seems to be an incredibly nice person too. And I think the two of you would work wonders on some Welsh historical drama.
Yeah.
We need to make this happen. We need to make this happen. How can we make it happen?
Well, chat, share it, find his socials.
Yeah.
Share it with him.
I met him briefly. I went to watch a Nairin, his play about Nairin Bevan in London, and I was walking past outside, and he came out. So it's a quick picture. It's a couple of seconds interaction, isn't it? But now I'm like, damn it! If I knew he could have done this, I could have actually gone, look. I know you're tired, mate. I know you're taking pictures for all your fans. There were all these fans because he's in some Omen show, which has got a huge fandom that I'm not aware of. I was like, can you all stop worshipping this man about some fantasy show? This is the first independent president of the Republic of Wales you are all speaking to, okay? Let me grab a couple of minutes for him. I just got a picture, but I posted it once on Instagram, and people acted like he's my mate. I'm like, it's literally me being a fan, getting a picture. I don't know the guy, but Wales is a fish pond. Everyone knows everyone. Like it really wouldn't be hard to get word to him.
It's definitely closer than 5 Degrees of Kevin Bacon. You will certainly be much closer in terms of those connections than that. So make sure you follow Nathen on his Substack.
People are saying in the comments that they're joining as we speak.
Philippa.
Philippa.
Oh, goodness. Oh, no. Oh, hang on. I do know.
Panic!
Sorry. I was away. Next week, we're back to our sort of normal streamers, so just the three of us. And I am putting forward another nomination for people from history we should know. And mine is the Cheshire Bantams. So with a personal connection, which you'll find out about if you watch next week.
It's going to be a good time. And I'm going to wrap it up. So if you have enjoyed what you have seen, then you could support us over on Buy Me a Coffee, www.buymeacoffee.com/hadpodcast. You can buy us Winnebagos there. You can also join our close friends. That's on Instagram. The circle of Instagram, if it's got a green bit around our little logo, that means you're already on our close friends. It also means that Catherine's just posted something. So if you would like to join that, then it's basically where Catherine takes her little pervert hands and goes on the internet with her little pervert mind, and she finds all sorts of depraved memes from history and, about beavers in general. And she puts them up there. It's essentially what our group chat's like on WhatsApp. So if you want to know what filth comes into my phone on a regular basis, then Close Friends is the place for you.
The way Kat's pretending there's nothing comes from
nothing to do with her.
I am as pure as the driven snow. I am a mother of small children. I am an angel personified, and I'll have no qualms.
Everything we knew
you're
from
trying
you.
to pretend you're Miss Honey, is what you're saying to us at this
correct. I don't know what 2 Girls 1 Cup is, and you'll never be able to prove different. Boom! There you are. And the fact that you've all reacted the way you reacted means that you've all seen it.
No. I know that it's not something I want to know. That's as far as I've got. Don't want to know. There you go.
Dude,
I'm not googling it. I am not.
On that note,
bad lowering of the tone.
If you've enjoyed what you've seen here, even that bit, then do make sure that you've liked this video, share it, comment loads do emojis. The more engagement, the more YouTube allegedly shares it out. Please subscribe to the channel, hit the bell icon, select all. That allegedly will tell you when we're next going to be here, but YouTube is a cheeky little minx. So please come over to our Substack as well, historyafterdarkhub.com. historyofdark.substack.com. There is also going to be links to our merch. I'm wearing some Warboner merch. That is an aubergine, or the Americans call it an eggplant, with
a helmet
on his spear. So there's Warboner merch, there's History After Dark merch, No Fix for the Internet merch, Rough Beaver merch, Timmy's a Problem merch, more merch coming soon, including our various things with the matchboxes. Also, you'll get links to the podcast. You can get the podcast as well if you search History After Dark podcast on your podcast places.
Yes.
Screaming at.
You need all of that.
Podcast places work different from the YouTube places. And so you can't do likes and subscribes. What you can do, though, is you can give us a 5-star review. If you don't think it's worth 5 stars, then we're not History After Dark podcast. We're a completely different podcast. Find them and give them the review. Make sure you're following all of us on our individual platforms. Make sure you are following us, History After Dark, because also we share information about what's going on. I think that's everything.
Yeah, and Nathen and me will see a few of you on Sunday night as well, because he's very kindly, Nathan's coming after book club, so we're going to talk about him and then we're going to talk to him.
I love it. I love it.
I bet I'll be coming into like a whole room going, "What a shit book!" I mean, this better not be an ambush, Philippa Glyndŵr.
I've got a feeling it might be a. Could you please tell us how to pronounce
every name?
Yeah,
ever created.
A list of 20 words we will require you to say out loud, because we've all got a version in our heads from reading the book.
What I love is that you've been here enough that you're still signing up for more, and that you're a glutton for punishment,
You're a
Nathen.
good lad.
And we love you for it.
Yeah.
So on that note, everybody, be good. And if you can't be good, be careful. And if you can't be careful, for the love of everything, do not get caught. We're going to go in 3, 2, 1. Bye!